So the gyrometer data gives you back information of how your device moves in 3D space. So if you imagine that this device has an imaginary line going from top to bottom, from left to right, and from in and out, from me to you, all through the center point of this device right here in the center. So if you imagine X going through here, Y going through this middle, and Z going through the middle, that's the three axes, X, Y, and Z. So the gyrometer data class returns back the motion of how this tablet moves around those three imaginary axes. So if you imagine, if I run this app, if you imagine that the Z, which is going from me to you, if I fix it so that the device can only move around the Z axis, you get like this type of motion. So it's fixed around this middle point, so that all the user can do is really like a steer gesture. Then that's coming back in the angular velocity Z, so that's a Z axis. So if you fix it along the X axis, right? If this device can only really move around this X axis, then the angular velocity X is what the data that's coming back in. So like if you imagine that's like the tilting effect. So if you fix it around the middle point, the middle axis, and you're you're tilting the device, then it's coming back in the angular velocity X. So again, steering, that's fixing it around that middle point, the Z, that's coming back in the Z data. If you're sort of fixing it along the X axis, you're tilting it, that's around in the X data. And now if you fix it along the Y axis, the top to bottom, through the middle, right? So all you can really do is this sort of like left to right hand shake, that's coming back in the Y. So that's how I interpreted the real world human gestures to the actual data coming back in the gyrometer. So again, if you fix it around that middle point, the X, the Z point, so that can it's like they're steering. If they fix it along the X, then they're tilting, and that's coming back in the X. And if you fix it along the Y, it's like they're shaking it. And a combination of all three. Now that you sort of know how a human gesture comes back in each of those three different values, then something as complex as a combination of all three should be easy if you break it down into its individual components of the Z, Y, X, and the Y.